You're welcome to Starry Gold, the #1 institution, the #1 tuition center with highest exam pass rate at one sitting for professional exams in Nigeria. We shall be preparing ourselves towards how best to pass examinations by looking at some techniques and also some tips that I believe we all must have known before now. This class is titled The Business and Finance class.
Okay, just smoke over it.
Okay, we shall be looking at some general examination tips. Before you enter the examination hall, I'll be looking at what I could call the pre-examination tips, which Starry Gold had already provided in their Telegram classes in form of an advert. They are very, very important. In one of the tips, we are told that we should study in bright light. We should study in bright light. We should exercise before we begin to read our books. We should drink enough water. When we are feeling sleepy, we need to stand up. We don't need to lie on bed while reading. We can also engage ourselves in group studies. When you feel sleepy, you can chew eyes or gum. These are actually helping students to read with understanding. You don't understand well when you are reading and you're sleeping. When you are feeling sleepy, you can switch topics. And I believe we all are aware of all this. It is also important that we take regular breaks so that we'll be able to assimilate very well what we have read. We should maintain proper time for everything, including the time we eat, the time we watch television, news. Try to take the time for your studies into serious consideration. You have to find every reason to be happy, because when you are unhappy, in a happy mood, your understanding level reduces. You need to set goals for yourselves, and your goal is to pass ICAN, to pass your examination. Create your perfect study space. Ensure that you have a very good environment for studies. Like I said, you should set a schedule for yourself and find reasons to be happy. All right. Make sure that on the exam day, you get to the exam venue in good time. And that means if you're not sure of the venue, it is expected that you will have tried to go there before that date to locate where the exam hall is. Because I know it's always very, very frustrating when you arrive late at the exam hall on the day you are supposed to take your exam. Identify your seats if it's possible. I remember some people will likely, or in most cases, use the seat identification to waste their time. Some will probably go to a wrong hall, and before they will find themselves back to the right hall, sometimes have gone. Once you get to the exam hall, don't panic, as that will increase your level of anxiety, thereby making you easily forget what you already know. The moment of anxiety increases your level of forgetfulness, and so try as much as possible to avoid it. If you are given the exam questions or paper, the first thing you should do is to read carefully the instructions. The instructions are what you are going to answer according to how they have been stated. Have a better understanding of what you are required to do. Just have a better understanding of what you're required to do. Don't just start writing or answering because others have started. If you come across any question you don't understand, don't be scared and start wasting time on that question. Don't start with those questions first. Don't start with questions you don't understand. That question will end up wasting your time. Just go ahead answering the ones you already understand, and then come back to the tough ones later. The best thing is to start with the known before going to the unknown. Make sure that you conclude and round up your work at least 10 minutes before the scheduled time, so that you can cross-check your work properly. Do you know some paragraphs that were not properly determined, some T's that were not properly crossed, some full stops that were not properly put or comma can create a different meaning from what you had in mind. So it is important that you create some time to go through what you have done and make some reasonable corrections. That will help you get organized. Now, let us start. If you are joining this class, or you're already hearing my voice, you are welcome to the class. Please kindly type hello so that I will know that you are there. I understand that you are there, but try to indicate that you are there so that we'll be moving together as one class. Please try and do that as I'm waiting. Type into the comment box. If you're there, just say hello. Expecting your comments. If you also have any question, you can kindly drop it in the same comment box, and that will be fine. Know that you can access both the questions and solutions of this live class on members area. You can access both the questions and solutions of this live class on members area. Our question is business and finance.
No.
For the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, foundation level examination for November 2017. We're not going to answer these questions categorically, but we're going to use this as an example to show how you can answer an examination question successfully. Looking at the question before us, you can see the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, and usually ICAN has this motto of accuracy and integrity. And so you should have this at the back of your mind as you are answering the ICAN questions. Accuracy. So for every question you are expected to answer, you should answer them accurately. And that shows your integrity as an accountant. When you miss this question, you are given 3 1/4 hours And the 1/4 hour is the reading time, the question reading time. At the time you are reading through for 15 minutes, you should be able to earmark the questions that are going to be easy for you to start with, instead of reading through endlessly. It is also expected that as you're reading, you should go straight to the requirements. The first thing you should read is the requirement, so that by the time you read the body of the question, it will be easy for you to have understood what that question is asking for. ICAN question says, answer all questions. That is a technique that you should have at the back of your mind. Answer all questions. That means you should touch every question that you have been asked to answer. If you are asked to answer 4 out of 6, you must answer the entire 4. So speed is of essence, and accuracy is also of the essence. And so today our responsibility is to show required techniques and strategies that will enable students earn marks and pass the examination. The techniques and strategies that will enable students earn marks and pass examination. If you don't combine technique with strategy, you may end up not meeting up with the time. And here, not meeting up with time will make you to lose marks. The overall time allocated is 3 hours, which means both multiple questions and theory questions must be answered within this space of time, excluding the reading time of 15 minutes, which is the 1/4 hours as mentioned. Multiple questions or objective questions have only 20 minutes, 20 marks, while theory questions have 80 marks, and that is 100 marks. So if you waste the entire time trying to answer the objective questions, which is just 20 marks, then you know that you are at loss. So the theory questions have 80 marks, so you have to allocate your time properly. Therefore, allocation of 20% of the 3 hours towards answering the 20 objective questions, and 80% of the time on the theory questions. 3 hours is 180 minutes. 20% of 180 minutes is 36 minutes. This means you should not exceed 1.8 seconds or 1.8 minutes in one objective question. The moment you start one objective question and you have exceeded 1.8 minutes, you know that you are already losing your time, the time you should have used on the theory question. While 80% of 180 minutes is 144 minutes, 144 minutes for 6 questions will mean that you should not spend more than 20 to 24 max minutes on theory questions. On a particular theory question, you shouldn't spend more than 20 minutes or 24 max. So the moment you find yourself exceeding these allocated or calculated times, know that you are not running according to your strategy and technique. It therefore means that you do not have to waste your time unnecessarily. Don't waste your time unnecessarily. Don't waste your time unnecessarily. To help yourself, read consciously, especially the multiple questions, and take note of answers, as it will amount to a waste of time going back to read them again. Let me repeat that. To help yourself, read consciously, especially the multiple questions, and take note of answers, as it will amount to a waste of time going back to read them again. So as you are reading, you have to take note so that you don't have to go back and forth reading one question, and that wastes a lot of time. For theory questions, it is advisable to read questions requirement first, as to comprehend the points you are expected to work on. Do not read aimlessly. Don't read aimlessly. Read the questions and take note of the instructions on the questions. During the reading time, tick questions you are familiar with and answer them first without rigmaroling, which is tantamount to time wasting and mark loss. For instance, read the following questions using 20% of 15 minutes. This means that the entire 20 objective questions must be read within 3 minutes. So you allocate only 3 minutes for the reading of the objective questions. And we all know that the objective questions are 20 in number. Objective questions. Read the following questions within 3 minutes and indicate when you are done. Don't answer any question yet. If you understand what I'm saying, say hi. If you understand me, say hi. If you're there, go through the questions and indicate when you are done. Thank you, Victor. Thank you, Gabriel. You're expected to go through the objective questions. Within 3 minutes. You can only hear my voice. You may not see me. But then, since you're hearing me, let's try and read the objective questions as if you are in an examination setting. And this is exactly what we can also do as one of these exam techniques, pre-exam techniques. You take up an ICAN exam question at your own time without anybody disturbing you for 3 1/4 hours. You're on your own. You can answer questions, past questions, as if you are in exam setting. That is what is expected, so that you will start getting used to the environment.
Are you having a lecture?
Yeah, also replying.
Don't worry, we'll do the reply because we have a break. Just do the reply. No.
All right, we continue. We're sorry for the break in transmission. I believe you are also reading through the objective questions. Question A says, which of the following sources of finance available to business is the most frequently used for short-term financing? You can see A, B, C, D, E. I said, which of the following is not a feature of theory Z? A, B, C, you read through and take note of any of these that you can easily answer. If you are just joining the class, please say hello to everybody in the class by typing on the comment box so that we can know that you are there. If you also have any question, follow the same principle, and we will know how you are feeling. You can have access to ICAN questions or past solutions from the members area. But 12 says, which of the following is not the generic type of industry as suggested by Porter? These are the questions on the objective schedule. You can read very quickly and provide your answers. The financial structure of a firm is made up of the following components, except. Once you hear except, it means that the rest of the answers are components. Only one. It is only one answer that is not part of the solution. And can somebody tell me which of these on question 13, objective question 13, is not part of the component? Can somebody tell me? Out of ordinary shares, preference shares, debenture, undistributed profits, dividend. Which of these answers are not in consonance with the rest? Let me hear you. Okay, I see that question 13E is the exception. Is the exception. The act of reporting specious, illegal, or improper behavior to the person in authority is known as. If you're there, you can send your answer. Good. The answer is in E, which is whistleblowing. Okay, so the same way, as you're reading through, you just take note of the ones that you can handle, so that by the time the 3 minutes are over, you can take hold of your question and provide solution. If you're joining the class, we also say hello, so that we can know that you are there. Read the following questions within 12 minutes and indicate when you are done. You can read the following questions also within 12 minutes and indicate when you are done. So when the question is handed over to you, it is expected that you allocate your time, just as we have said. Objective questions, you take 3 minutes. And the rest of the questions, you also allocate your time so that you don't exceed 12 minutes, because you're taking 15 minutes to go through the entire question. If that is understood, then it becomes very clear that you are managers of time. You can manage your exam time while you are right there in the hall. Don't allow difficult questions to extend the time you have allocated for every question, whether of objective or of theory question. You can read the questions very fast and with full concentration, so that you will not lose track of the entire aim. Theory question has 6 questions, but you're expected to answer only 4. For instance, culture is a set of dominant beliefs, attitudes, values, and norms that is shared by several people. A1. Explain briefly how culture differs from between informal and formal organizations. Explain briefly how culture differs between informal and formal organizations. So in this question, the AI part has only 4 marks. You need to write briefly. You don't need to start writing pages and wasting your time. So it's important that you look at the mark allocated for that question. A question of 20 marks. If you are writing a section of it that carries 4 marks, you have to be very, very wise and skillful. The second part says, describe briefly 2 factors that shape organizational culture. That is also carrying 4 marks. Then you have a B part. Johnson and Scholes suggested the cultural web approach to analyzing corporate culture. Describe 4 cultural web elements. 12 marks. Remember that we had already had 4 marks plus 4 marks, that is 8, and then 12, and that will give you 20 marks. So if you will take the same time you have for the one of 20 marks, answering the one of 4 marks, you should know that you're already losing time. So that is the technique we are talking about. Look at the marks, look at the time, look at the kind of question. Is it an easy question or is it a difficult question for you? And so in answering that question, you have to allocate your time according to the marks given for that question. Look at question 6. It says, to make decisions in a scientific manner, accountants sometimes need to apply operations, research techniques. They need to apply operation research techniques. A, list and describe briefly 4 operations, research techniques that accountants can use for effective and efficient decision making. The question wants us to list the various techniques that accountants can use for decision making. In this regard, it is imperative that you don't exceed the same 4 questions, that the same 4 points, and on each of those 4 points you have to be very, very on point. Instead of rigmaroling, instead of writing on so many issues that are not related. Accuracy, like we said, is the watchword. And integrity also means that you have to write on what you are sure of. Don't assume some answers that will give you wrong marks at the end of the day. So make sure that you touch every part of the question, like it said. Attempt all questions. Attempt all questions. That is very important. You have to attempt all questions within the time allocated. For the question before us, operation research or techniques that accountants use for effective and efficient decision making includes game theory. Game theory. This is an technique used to resolve problems involving conflicts. It involves studying mathematical models of conflicts and cooperation to help make strategic decisions. Rules are specified, which represent the various choices of action available and help determine what potential and likely outcome of various courses of action will be. That is what is called the game theory. We also have what we call the mathematical logic. This is integral to most of the techniques. Mathematical logic is used to reflect the relationships between the various components, variables, and parameters within something that is being modeled. The logic is constructed to include an objective functions with which different solutions can be evaluated and constrained, tested, that restrict feasible values. See, these are models that are already tested scientifically, because scientific management deals with such. Mathematical modeling is another model that accountants can use for decision making. A model is simplified representation of a real life system or situation. Mathematical modeling is a way of describing a system using mathematical concepts and language. Mathematical concept and language. The use of mathematical modeling allows the researcher to better understand the contents, the effects of different components, and make predictions about behavior. You see, this is a model that can be used for decision making. We also have another one called a mathematical optimization. This is a technique used to select the optimal solution from a set of available alternatives. The solution is derived by either maximizing or minimizing a real function by systematically selecting input values from within feasible ranges. We also have what is called the network analysis. Network analysis. This is a project management technique. It involves identifying the different components of a project, how long each component will take to be completed, the earliest and the latest start and finishing times for each component, and the order in which component can be completed. One of the main objectives of network analysis is to identify the critical parts. This is the series of components which sequentially represent the shortest potential duration of the project. You see, these are the kind of models or techniques that can be used in real life for decision making. You see, if in an examination setting you are not sure of these techniques, it is needless to start wasting your time there. So it's important that you understand the question that you're expected to answer at every point in time. If you're just joining the class, you're expected to say hello so that we'll know that you are there. It is important also to understand that writing pages, some people will write and they'll ask for the examiner to give him more pages. The success of a candidate in an ICAN exam does not depend on lengthy pages. It depends on the points raised. It depends solely on the points that you have raised on each of the questions available to you. And so I will repeat by saying that it is imperative that a student who is preparing for an examination should bring out time as if he is in an exam setting to answer questions, past exam questions with timing. So before you go in for your exam this time, I will expect you to practicalize what we have studied today. Take at least 5 ICAN past questions, either from the Pathfinder, without looking at the solution. The first day, lock yourself up somewhere or put yourself in a place where nobody will disturb you. Give yourself 3 hours and answer those questions as if you are in an exam hall. The second day, you take another one. If you can do 2 questions in a day, that's fine. And try as much as you can to put yourself in an exam setting and time yourself. If you are unable to finish a set of questions within the allocated time, when you are timing yourself or examining yourself, I want to tell you that the same thing will likely happen when you are in an exam hall. That is what I have discovered. It is important that after revising your notes before the exam day, that you bring up some bullet points on mnemonics that can help you answer chapter by chapter the points you have read from your notes. It is expected that you don't carry that your notes, but you could be carrying your short mnemonic bullet points notes, so that you would have acclimatized yourself with a situation where everything in your notes would have been summarized in short forms that will help you remember even when you meet a situation in the hall. One other thing I would like you to understand is that as soon as you enter your self-testing hall, you have to lock out everybody. You don't care about who is knocking at the door. You don't care about what is happening within that moment. And you have to discipline yourself so much that you wall off the temptation of going to look for the answers when you have not finished answering the questions, especially when you have the solutions on Pathfinder or somewhere else. Keep writing. If you cannot remember them clearly, keep writing until you are done. Once you have done that, the moment you go back to check their solutions, those solutions, I will tell you, will stick into your head. I have discovered that I can, in most cases, repeat questions. If those questions are not repeated, they can be turned the other way around. And I tell you, their answers will be the same. And so, don't conclude your preparation for ICAN examinations without having a time, a week or two for solving past questions. And Starry Gold is the best place for you, because in our classes on Telegram, we show sorry for breaking. I believe you are still there. What this class is meant for is not for solving these questions, but I believe the various techniques I have given you will help you to deal with the ICAN situations. especially in the exam hall. But I would like to take you back a little to look at some of the things that the examiner requires in most of these questions. Though not sequence, but I will be taking you back and forth into any of these questions to see if we can do justice to the requirements. Question 1, as we can see on the screen, it says 1A, companies can raise equity capital externally by issuing new shares for cash. State and explain the 4 main methods of issuing new shares for cash. What this question is asking is the knowledge of funding. The knowledge of funding which equity capitals provide. So it is important that ordinary shares, which is the equity shares and everything that has to do with that, should be properly understood before a student can answer this question. And so the approach will definitely be by looking at the various segments. The second segment says 4 methods. 4 methods. And in answering this question, you have to look at the methods that will help them to raise capital externally by issuing new shares. In this case, we're not talking about taking loan from a bank, we're not also talking about getting credit supplies from a supplier. We're looking at absolutely from the capital market. So you have to understand what happens in the capital market with issuing of new shares. And look at the second question here, talking about finance lease And the 5 features of finance lease. You can see that this question already is broken into different parts. The A part is talking about the concept of finance lease, and it attracts only 5 marks. So what the examiner wants here is for the candidates to go straight to the definition of finance lease. And the concepts will be properly explained. And very quickly, you can get your 5 marks. Finance lease is the fund that a finance house or a bank deploys into an asset that the company wants, and also gives that asset to the company to use until the amount has been fully paid up. And they also give that company the option to use that to buy up the asset after the end of its tenure. That is finance lease. The bank or the finance company finances that asset and allows the company to use it. And at the end of the tenure, they will give them the first option to take over the asset. So it doesn't require too much writing. And it says again, explain briefly any 5 features of a finance lease. In this case, it's expected that the features of a finance lease will be mentioned one after the other till you have exhausted your 5 points. The C part of the question says Chakibin Limited obtained a quarry machine worth 2.5 million naira under a finance lease agreement. The company agreed to make 5 annual lease payments. That is, every year they will pay 600,000 over the life of the lease agreement. It says compute the annual interest payment made by Chakibin Limited and states where the interest payment should be recorded in the financial statement. That is what the question will be looking for. The question wants to see where the interest payment will be recorded in a financial statement. Financial statements, as we all know, includes the profit and loss account and the balance sheet. So it requires an accounting knowledge to answer this question also. The interest of a finance lease usually is expensed. And in the balance sheet is capitalized. So the entire cost of the assets is expected to be seen in the balance sheet, while the interest portion is expected to be seen in the profit and loss account. So it's important that as a student reads up finance lease, you should also find out the treatment in the financial statements. I hope I'm making a point. I believe I'm also talking to accounting students. But what is important here is also that you look at those marks and look at the entire mark of the question and answer, give your answer accordingly. Looking at this other question, it says, state 4 differences between accounting rate of return and internal rates of return, IRR. Accounting rate of return sees returns from the accountant point of view. The accountant point of view here includes the way it is treated in the profit and loss account. And that is one reason why depreciation will normally be excluded from the returns. While internal rate of returns looks at the discounted values for the computation of the net present value. So it's important to have a broad understanding of how the accountant looks at returns in the profit and loss, and how a project can be evaluated for an IRR. This question carries 8 marks, and it is important that justice should be done to it. Looking at the second part of it, which is carrying 4 marks, explain the term convertible bonds. Explain the term convertible bonds. The examiner is looking for an understanding of convertible bonds. And here, it doesn't require much writing. The top part of the question says, state 2 advantages of convertible bonds. Advantage to investors, an advantage to the company. Generally, these are cash flow issues. What advantage does it have to the investor? And what advantage does it have to the company itself? Provides funds to the investor and also to the company. So a knowledge of bonds related to capital markets is also needed here. Number 4 question says, management are expected to provide reasons for making investment decisions. They are expected to provide reasons for making investment decisions. Although most reasons presented to support investment decisions are financial, however, non-financial considerations are equally tenable. What this question is looking at is the qualitative and the quantitative reasons why a project should be embarked upon. It says, state 3 financial reasons that might be used to make a capital investment decision. 3 financial reasons for investment decision. And this is carrying 6 marks. XYZ Limited is considering investing into mutually exclusive water processing plants. The following cash flows are considered relevant to the investment proposal. Find the initial outlay and also have the net cash flows for year 1 and year 2. It says up to year 5. Assuming the company's cost of capital is 18%, you are required to advise management on the best choice of plant to invest in using the NPV, that is the net present value. The cost of capital is 18%. And the cash flows are all given. It says you are required to advise management on the best choice of plant to be invested. You will be looking at the NPV that is equal to greater than 0. The project that gives the highest NPV will be considered with quantitative reasons or qualitative reasons. If a project is given the highest NPV, or if the NPV is positive, what are the other qualitative reasons, other reasons that are not monetary, that can be applied to it? A project may have a very big positive NPV, but there are no qualitative reasons why it should be embarked upon. You need to advise the management in writing, showing why that project has to be executed. The one that has better positive quantitative reasons and qualitative reasons. So these are the things this question is looking for, and one has to understand it. So it is not just the computation of the MPV, but it has to take into consideration other things. If you're in the class, it's expected that you say hello, so that we know that you are there. We have dealt with this number 5 question before, and we earlier said you need to have understanding of the culture, its benefits, and it applies to organizations before you can answer this question properly. Organizations see culture as macro environmental factor, and if that external environmental factor is so strong that it will affect the objectives of the organization, very bad. And so a better understanding of environmental factors is needed here. And your answer should be so clear with the instruction that is given. So like I said, this class is not for question answering. But if there's any part of this question you don't understand, you can pick them up from the members corner, or pick up the ICAN Pathfinder and you can find solution to them. But I've given you enough tips on how you look at every question by its own merits, and deal with it by instruction, by timing, and by the marks allocated to them. And don't forget, before you submit your paper in an examination hall, make sure that you have read through every point you have pinned down, from objective questions to theory questions, one by one. And note your omissions, cross your T's before you submit. Sometimes it's very important not to overlook any part of the syllabus. And that is why Starry Gold is here for you. Every subject is segmented. And every week we take lectures on those segments. of the syllabus, and we see that every part of the course is covered. And again, the Telegram lectures remain. Even when you are not there when the lectures were taken, you can have your time to go through. And after going through, you make your points, jot down your points, and read them alongside with your other materials. We don't see reason why any students who has passed through Starry Gold lectures should fail an exam. Though you're busy, but the 2 hours you spend with us every time is qualitative. And I assure you that if you take this lecture serious, you have no reason for failing your exams. This live class is not meant for elaborate talking and teaching you how to answer these questions here, teaching you solution to these questions. But we're here today trying to let you know point by point what you can do on a particular question that is before you. Your success is not only in the hall, but we are telling you that your success depends on what you have done even before the examination dates. And that is what I'm here to recap, to tell you. So before I conclude, I still want to tell you that you can make out time to go through the lectures we have provided, go through the questions and solutions we have provided, so that when you enter the hall, you will not feel jittery. You will feel as if you have seen these things before. And you're going to answer swiftly and seamlessly, and submit your answer scripts at the right time. Thank you very much. And I believe these points have been noted. If there is anything that you have expected to hear that has not been presented, we ask you to pardon us. But make use of the points we have given you so far, because we have passed through this experience before and we made it. It is my prayer that as we end up now this lecture, this live class, we are launching you into your success regime. And the next time we will see you, you'll be talking about testimonies. Testimonies of what Starry Gold has done, testimonies of what these lectures have done. And so at this point, I say thank you very much, and the Lord will bless you. Amen.
in the last software like data recovery software. So what the data recovery software will do, like if your data, if your storage is not small, so you can use data recovery software to recover some of the file. The only thing that is a probability system that can now recover all the file, all the percent, they can recover different number of that file, which is going to be something able to use. And that is something is able to recover some of the file and then use the entire file. So that question, that's what we mentioned today. We are moving to the data recovery and that is one more. Let's actually say, these all these is for different law, and the same level to something that may be applied to each of them. That is, how can we explain this out? It is just necessary. And how can we change the presentation? How can we present this kind of students at the media by this explain this kind of? So when we look at that, this one, then it's the first discussion to get additional from my taking instance. Now, it is always advisable to refer this type of answer in tabular form. So our table will have two columns. The first column will be English, the data law, while the second column will be the second statement, the data law. So one, virus attack. So virus can lead to data law. What we need to do is order the purpose. Like installing up to date as virus software. I feel like installing original software. Now, the next thing that can lead to data loss is hacking. What you need to do order to purpose is by building the firewall around the system. Then unauthorized access can lead to data loss. What you need to do is to use access control and the use of password and data encryption, data biometric identification. Then another thing that can lead to data loss is accidental loss of data. If natural disaster and physical damage, what you need to do is to do a backup, and the backup copy to be kept in outside location. Then number 5, inability to save dynamically. That is, the only thing you can do is position of a not all one story, so that as you are positioning your data or entering your transaction or data to be used, your automatically to be saved. Then number 6, power source. What you need to do is use of stabilizer or what is an extra power supply. That is able to increase your stabilize the power source.